What's up, everybody? I'm Katie.
And I'm Morgan.
And this is For Your Misinformation. We are two Midwestern feminists here to break down the political news that you need to know without the misinformation that you don't.
Let us break down the problem and tell you what we're doing and what you can do to help solve it.
Hey, everyone. It's just going to be me this week because Morgan is actually driving here as we speak. I'm recording this on Friday, May 14th, and Morgan is about an hour away, stuck in construction. But I am very excited to see her, so I'm going to record this episode and then go because we have, things to do and people to see without masks on. Because we trust them. Actually, let me weigh in real quick on the CDC guidance. So, as a public health person who definitely errs on the side of, I'm just a real careful person. Usually. I'm risk averse, I guess, is probably what Clark would say. And he's usually right. But anyway, I don't think any of the behavior we've seen in the last year, none of that inclines me to trust people. So I am comfortable being around maskless people who I know are vaccinated because I know them and I trust them. But I don't think we have any reason to trust the general public. So I don't know. That makes me kind of nervous, but just as get vaccinated, make sure the people you care about are vaccinated, and you guys should be fine. But it just doesn't seem like great news or a great plan for the general public, but not up to me. Not up to me. All right. What I really would like to talk about this week. Oh, wait. Okay. Very exciting things. So I get the instinct to be like, well, if you guys get vaccinated, you don't have to wear masks. But I don't think there's any proof that the people who won't get vaccinated are they don't seem like the rule following type. So they're not gonna be like, oh, well, we'll be allowed to do this if that's not how they're gonna look at it. But I do have to say I'm super impressed with what Ohio is doing. They're giving away 5 $1 million prizes to adults who are vaccinated in the state of Ohio. And they're also giving away for teens that are between 12 and 17, giving away a separate lottery that will award randomly a full 4-year scholarship to somebody who is vaccinated between those ages. But that's another reason that I want to keep wearing masks in indoor places and, in big groups is because, which is really what the CDC said. But anyway, people under 12 can't get vaccinated. It's just there's a lot of vulnerable people still, like my mom. But yeah, kudos to Governor DeWine for being open to an incentive like that, because I think that that'll be really, really good. But what I think I'd really like to talk about today is Liz Cheney and what happened this past week. So House Republicans successfully forced a vote to oust Liz Cheney from their leadership. And this is, I don't know if the general public will note this as a turning point, but it just seems to, I'm not surprised, but it gives me enough, it's, there's no turning back. And I knew this, we should have known this, parties don't get de-radicalized without a lot of pressure, and there's no pressure from almost anywhere. So I am basically, I guess I'll finish laying out the facts of the matter before I give my opinion. So they ousted her because she had because she had the courage to tell the truth. And she votes with Trump a lot. All of her policy opinions are in line with what Mitch McConnell, she has totally alienated herself from her sister because her sister's gay. She's a birther. She's so like totally believed in like the racist birther conspiracy theory about Obama. And she has decided to draw the line at lying about election security. So she has had the courage to tell the truth. So she reached a point where she couldn't defend Trump anymore, and she refuses to push the big lie that the election was stolen. And she's one of just a few Republicans who stood against these lies that incited the insurrection and like really shook democracy. And it feels very fragile to me still, and it feels like most people aren't really acting that way. But I don't know, maybe I don't know, among like my more like activist-y friends, people seem burnt out, and me too. So I don't know, we're gonna have to start taking better care of ourselves. I finally made those self-care sticks, and I put like all my favorite stuff in it. Let me read you. Hold on. So I just got some popsicle sticks or tongue depressors. I got some colorful ones, which is even more fun. And I just put them in like a little cup or a mason jar or whatever. And I put some of like my favorite things that always make me feel better on them. And I put it in a real prominent spot in my room so I can walk by and be like, how do I feel? Should I do something nice for myself before I go back to researching transnational crime? But I put take a bath, listen to music, watch stand-up comedy, go for a walk outside, stretch for 10 minutes, drink 8 ounces of water, take a shower with tea tree oil, take a nap, FaceTime a friend, bake something fun, eat some fruit, paint your nails, brush your teeth, do something with plants, find an animal and play with them. For me, it's probably going to be Jasper or the foster cats, but you can find whatever. Go for it. Journal, go for a bike ride, go for a walk in a forest preserve, tidy, ask for help, drink tea, change the sheets, do a crossword puzzle. That's mostly for Clark. My brain does crossword puzzles all day, or at least it feels like it does. Board game, go see a movie, physical therapy exercises, light a candle, do 25 jumping jacks. Feel free to steal as many of those as you need to. But yeah, there's not a ton of time though before the midterm elections. So I'm going to try and like do like a real good self-care June. Maybe we can all do that and then like get back in the groove of saving democracy, American democracy. So this vote to oust Liz Cheney, it really represents, did I say this already? A line in the sand in today's Republican Party. Like you have to support Trump's lies, which means that you don't actually care about democracy, or you will be replaced. And, Mitt Romney experienced this. He was recently booed by his own party. Adam Kinzinger was censured in Illinois, like all because they're like, no, sorry, elections mean something. Like, ugh. And like, welcome to those people, but also how the fuck did it get so far before you like woke up? No room for people of good conscience in the Republican Party anymore. And it's a dangerous evolution, and people have seen it for a long time. I mean, if you're here, you know about it. The Republican Party is an anti-truth autocratic cult, and that has never been more clear. And it's really important that we fight it. And some people are like, oh my gosh, how do we fight it? Myself included, but it's like register Democrats, register marginalized groups, because like their vote is being attacked right now all over the place. And I hope that like the courts step in, or that legislation like the For the People Act actually manages to like make those dangers go away. But we don't know that that's going to happen. So, but it's actually like almost helpful to me to be like, to see that. So you can now delineate between the group. Hold on, let me look up. Okay, sorry. I feel like I should give like a little bit more background. So she was removed from from leadership in the Republican Party. She is still in Congress. She's still in the House of Representatives. She still is a representative from Wyoming. She will face re-election in 2022, just like all the reps will. They get they're up for election every 2 years. So it'll be interesting to see if the people in her district still support her, or if they favor a Trump Republican, even though like there are no policy differences. So like once you don't allow dissent anymore, like that's a cult is how you can look at it. So after Liz Cheney was removed from leadership, more than 150 Republican leaders initiated a movement called A Call for American Renewal, and they have stated principles. I'll read the preamble of their. So this is, I would not say this is another party. This is like a faction of the Republican Party, and it either needs to take over the entire Republican Party or break off and be another party so that Republicans lose for the next foreseeable future, because they turned in like their authoritarian leanings sure did end up turning him into a cult. But okay, so the preamble says, these United States, born of noble convictions and aspiring to high purpose, have been an exemplar of self-government to humankind. Thus, when in our democratic republic forces of conspiracy, division, and despotism arrive, it is the patriotic duty of citizens to act collectively in defense of liberty and justice. We therefore declare our intent to catalyze an American renewal and to either reimagine a party dedicated to our founding ideals or else hasten the creation of such an alternative. So that's a pretty good sign. I mean, but again, like, what took you guys so long? So yeah, it's a conservative anti-Trump group. They say a call for American renewal is a rallying cry for pragmatists everywhere. Our nation's future should not be dictated by a single person, but by principles that bind us together. That's why we believe in pushing for the Republican Party to rededicate itself to its founding ideals, or else hasten the creation of an alternative. So the thing about like fascist movements is they don't move backwards. So I don't know. I hope this is the beginning of a splintering, because that is like what happens to groups like this. Like nothing holds them together but like hatred and greed. They don't really have any like that thing like that just said, like principles that bind them together. Ugh, it's gross. So yeah, but okay, if we do end up going, I've been thinking more about this Handmaid's Tale island analogy, and it's like, it's a pretty good point. I think I'm going to keep using it, so I hope you guys don't mind. The Handmaid's Tale island is actually like in a like swirling sinkhole. So like we've already been sucked in. It's really hard to get out, but like we can still get out, but we'd have to turn really, really hard. And like Liz Cheney is trying to turn the boat, but like most people don't give a shit about Liz Cheney. Like the public at large does not give a shit about Liz Cheney. So I hope it's not too late. I hope that they splinter. But it's clear right now that most Republicans give in to the big lie. And for me, it's like, oh, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and look at that faction of the Republican Party as members of a cult. And I don't necessarily, like, the thing about cults is everybody is susceptible to them. Like, that's why multi-level marketing schemes and like pyramid schemes and all like Tony Robbins, that's why all of that is successful, because they have like figured out how to hack people's psyche and people are like brains are predictable and they're vulnerable to that kind of like persuasion. Like I know that I am susceptible to joining it. Like that's why you have to constantly like question where like sources and intent, and it's just everything's a lot. And it feels like it's just a weird time in history, like because it seems like we can't, Americans can't agree on a set of facts, on like on an actual neutral reality. But if we do end up, like, you can look into the future and see who's president of Handmaid's Tale Island, like Tucker Carlson is, or Josh Hawley, or Ted Cruz, or President Trump. If he's like allowed back on Twitter and can like have enough of a platform or whatever, like he could probably do a lot of bad stuff, do a lot of damage in 2024. But like those are the kind of people who would be the Republican nominee for president. So that's the direction that party is going. If you end up, like, if the call for American renewal or whatever ends up working, which skeptical over here, then it would be like Liz Cheney, Mitt Romney, Adam Kinzinger, somebody who like stood up to Trump, who would be, okay, you guys understand. So over the next few months or years, it really, like, I guess our job is just to pull people back from the brink whenever possible. Actually, let me play you a TikTok that I found from your pal _Austin, who does a good job of explaining how we should feel about Tucker Carlson.
Response when you see children wearing masks as they play should be no different from your response to seeing someone beat a kid in Walmart.
Call the police immediately.
Nobody cool like Tucker Carlson. Nobody cool like Tucker Carlson. Nobody cool like Tucker Carlson. If you like Tucker Carlson, then you're not cool. Cause nobody cool like Tucker Carlson. Only a fool would like Tucker Carlson. Nobody cool like Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is the worst. He's a maniac, sociopath, white supremacist, fear-generating mouth with an emphasis on lies and misinformation. That infuriating look on his face, and a court of law accepted an argument that no reasonable person would take him seriously. And while that's technically true, people do, and that's why I'm like, shut the hell up, Tucker Carlson, please go away. Tucker Carlson, nobody who's even a little bit cool would say they don't think you're a total tool. Nobody cool likes Tucker Carlson. Nobody cool likes Tucker Carlson. Nobody cool likes Tucker Carlson. Tucker, you're the worst.
I love it when stuff is like translated into music for me, because it's fun and everything in that TikTok was true. So yeah, technically a court ruled that nobody in their right mind would take him seriously, but people do take him seriously. And he's the most watched cable news, but except he's not news, it's opinion. It's so infuriating. Okay, that's all about Tucker. That's the future of the Republican Party. But I want to talk a little bit about cults and how dangerous it is to, how I have to keep reminding myself over and over and over again that everybody is vulnerable to them, because so many, like, that, I don't know, people ask how the Holocaust could have happened, but like it did. So that's how many people can either be convinced to do something or convinced not to do anything and just to observe like atrocities happen. Like we all have some like cranky uncle who just won't accept the facts. And climate change was like the OG conspiracy theory too, that people like love to embrace. But so I don't know, it kind of falls on us because people aren't convinced by strangers, so it falls on us to move those members or those people that we know along hopefully the behavior change continuum, because like our democracy kind of depends on it. Damn, no pressure though. But okay, so one example of maybe, I mean, okay, so anyway, obviously climate change is like a big thing that had a lot of misinformation, still has, but the tobacco industry started a term, fake experts. So that's a propaganda technique that the tobacco industry used in the 1970s. And they called this misinformation the White Coat Project. Fake expert is like should perk your ears up, because authoritarians love to discredit experts. There are experts, whether people like it or not. They like dismiss them as elites or whatever, but it's because they want people to not know like who they can and can't trust. It's really, really like, it's like deeply fucked up. But I think one thing that does a pretty good job of explaining how enticing like conspiracy theories can be. I mean, a lot of people in America are like deeply, deeply missing connection. And a lot of times they find it with other conspiracy theories. Like, so Behind the Curve on Netflix is about flat earthers. And do you guys remember when like Kyrie Irving and like a couple other NBA players, like successful, smart people all the time are successfully conned by cults, like conned into joining and being members of cults. And there's a lot of different manipulative techniques that they use. But yeah, Behind the Curve on Netflix is a really good example. So I would say watch that. It's like 90 minutes. I've already watched it a bunch of times and I'm probably going to watch it again. Learn about why people fall into believing conspiracy theories. It's so complicated. Everything's so complicated. And then this is from, I follow a therapist on Twitter. Her name is Emily Cooper. You can find her. She's in the Seattle area. And okay, so this is what she posted on her Instagram in response to Liz Cheney being kicked out of leadership. She said, "Okay, liberals, here's your homework. Go watch Behind the Curve and learn about why people fall into believing conspiracy theories. Think about how you treat people. Do you make it easy for them to change their minds, or do you treat them with a harshness that pushes them further into the conspiracy belief?" I personally know that I have a hard time with this and need to start working on it. Like, and I feel like I've been very clear about this. I dated somebody from 2015 to 2017 that like while we were dating turned into a Trump supporter. So when I read about stuff like this, and I'm not an conflict avoidant person, I don't think. I used to think that I was, but like really I'm not sure that I am. Like I've gotten in arguments with all of my conservative ex-boyfriends about their belief systems, and the only thing that I got my Trump supporter ex-boyfriend to see things my way on was the Muslim ban. I got him to change his mind about the Muslim ban, but remember that was really, really early on in the Trump presidency was like the first thing that happened. So I think about that a lot and like how I managed to change his mind, but I did like say like, can you understand how if you were in another country and America did something like this like how it actually makes America less safe because it makes them hate us. And he like did seem to understand that, but couldn't get him to change his mind about guns, about Trump, about a lot of stuff. Like he became radicalized while we were dating, and I don't know how that happened. Like he went from watching he was in college and he lived in a house with a bunch of Trump supporters, so I think that's how it happened. But anyway, yeah, like you can't, but the answer is not like cutting those people out of your life, because then they'll never change their minds. Like you have to be like aware of places where you can push back and like might actually make a difference. Learn how to, so sorry, this is back to Emily Cooper, the therapist's Instagram. Learn how to calm your emotions, so when you're in a conversation with someone who believes the election was rigged or that Trump won, etc., you'll be able to effectively engage with them. This is important too, and I can attest, nobody's mind is going to be changed if they feel like they're being attacked. And this is how I always feel when like men enter my DMs all angry. It's like, I don't even want to engage with you now. Like, why would you bother? So anyway, assume good intent. Easier said than done. And then back to Emily Cooper's Instagram. This is the only way we stand a chance. You can't tell people they're idiots and expect them to listen to you. I get it, but you have to be strategic if you stand any chance at convincing people differently. She also added, also have conversations that seek to understand the other person's viewpoint. You can't accurately engage in a debate if you don't know where they're coming from. This is where I think following Sharon McMahon's Instagram page has been really helpful, because she really does present things with no bias at all, and sometimes it makes me roll my eyes like how little context she provides, but then I remember that she's changing QAnon people's minds, so fine. But I really am exposed to so many different viewpoints on her page, because she specifically will ask conservatives for their viewpoint and liberals for their viewpoint. And while I think 99% of the opinions and arguments that her conservative followers make, it is really, 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 really enlightening to see their answers. For example, last week she asked conservatives to give examples of Democrats that they find trustworthy. And then she did the same thing for Ask Democrats which Republicans they find trustworthy. And I was obviously not surprised. They find liberals find Mitt Romney, Liz Cheney, and Adam Kinzinger trustworthy. Okay, take 1 second to think of who you imagine a Republican or a conservative would say is the most trustworthy Democrat. Who did I think it was going to be? I figured like Joe Manchin, probably. The top answer, the top vote getter, the person who people told her more than anybody else, Tulsi Gabbard, which is insane. But it also tells me that like maybe this sounds bad, but like that they're pretty low information, because I feel like anybody who knows even a little bit about Tulsi Gabbard knows that she is not a trustworthy person. I don't know. I guess that's who the right thinks is trustworthy. I also, and now I'm going to read some tweets from Kate Kelly's Twitter. If you remember, she is a human rights attorney, and also we had her on the podcast to talk about the Equal Rights Amendment, but she's an ex-Mormon, so she knows a lot about high control groups and cults and stuff like that. So I'm not going to read all of it because it's pretty long, but I'm going to read the stuff that stuck out to me. She said, don't ever think you're too smart to join a cult. Fundamentalism is just getting addicted to other people's wrongness. At a certain point, what you support doesn't even have to be right or provable or the best idea or even what you believe. Others being wrong takes primacy. And that, like, there really is a certain, like the Waco people, the Ruby Ridge people, the militia people, they think that Democrats are like an existential threat to America because they've been like fed fear and stuff like that from Fox News. Like that's so dangerous. But so they're addicted to being anti that. And they think that they're the good guys. And they're basically misinformed, and it's sad and it's dangerous. Okay, back to Kate Kelly's tweet. An ex once told me you'd rather be right than anything, and honestly, it was accurate, and I now know where I got that from. When you get to the point that you'd rather be right than anything, you'd rather be right than happy or financially secure or even in control of your own life, you'll stick with people who defy logic and pretend you believe them. You'll vote against your own best interest. When others, whether they be outsiders or non-believers, being wrong is your highest value, you can't peacefully coexist because then you have to commit to them being wrong. Cults are not defined by what the cult leader or its members believe. All religious groups make fantastical claims. Cults are defined by how those beliefs are transmitted, who transmits them, and how much freedom the group members have. For example, to disagree or to dissent. Wacky beliefs are not the key to identifying cults. There are all kinds of cults: political cults, space cults, exercise cults, corporate cults, self-improvement cults, nutrition cults, multi-level marketing cults, philosophical cults. And of course, religious cults. Cults of all kinds like to feign that they are being persecuted for their beliefs. That should ring some bells. Janja Lalich, a cult expert and survivor, identifies 4 features all cults share. Again, this is still part of Kate Kelly's thread, but she's crediting another author. 1, a transcendent belief system. 2, charismatic authority. 3, systems of control. 4, systems of influence. They stifle individuality and critical thinking, require intense obedience, and restrict freedom. 1, transcendent belief system. This can be tricky because I promised you it's not about what they believe. The important distinction is it's not about what they believe, it's the cult's enforced eradication of any behaviors or ideas that challenge the group's beliefs. They demand for totalizing commitment from the cult, and this often leads to fierce distrust and even hatred of outsiders. To anyone never involved in cultic relationships or groups, if you think only unintelligent people are involved in them, you're ignorant. Cult members aren't wide-eyed fools. They're people who've been under the influence of powerful systems deliberately designed to manipulate. People want to think that only unintelligent people would be involved in cults and that they would never fall for a Jonestown or a Scientology or Mormonism. But cult members are relatively normal, most of them. It's threatening for people to be confronted with this reality, but it's true. Ugh. Hard. But another reason that I think I'm so interested in this, and I feel like see it clearly the most people, is that I would say, and I talked about this person on Instagram recently, but after dating the Trump supporter, I dated somebody who was living with his 9-month-old son and the baby's mom for the entire time that we were dating and lying to me about being with the mom. Like, he told me that they weren't together and they were together the whole time. So, and he successfully, so he was very manipulative, definitely had some narcissistic tendencies, but basically, and so he was gaslighting me the whole time about him and the mom not being together. Like, he would tell me that they were co-parenting. Like, we went on vacation together, like with the son, and it was like a mind fuck, the whole thing. But and I like hesitate to even call it an abusive relationship, because like he never got physical with me, and I know that like people have been through a lot worse, but it was, like I said, it was a mind fuck. But abusive relationships are like baby cults. They're like little cults. So I don't know. I see how easy it is for people, even smart people, which I like to try and consider myself a smart person, are vulnerable to them. And I think we should start looking at that branch of the Republican Party as an abusive partner. I think that would be a helpful way of thinking about them. But after watching Behind the Curve, the Flat Earther documentary, what I keep coming back to is just that it's sad. Like each conspiracy theorist is a misguided scientist, because they're like naturally curious people. They're just misinformed. Like nobody bothered to make sure they understood the scientific method, because they're reverse engineering. They have a conclusion and then they're trying to find evidence for that. So the systems failed them too there. So yeah, they're naturally inquisitive people who could be, it's sad. And then also, like, a lot of it is lonely men who are looking for a connection and then like finding it with militias or QAnon or flat earthers. And like we failed them too. And then we look down at them, and like shame doesn't work. We have to like try and figure out where they're getting stuck. And the worst possible scenario is that these individuals are pushed to the fringes and that we lose them, because they're like potential scientists gone completely wrong. And if they were scientifically literate, their natural skepticism would be a benefit to society. And if you're not willing to engage with them, then you can't expect them to change. But yeah, it's hard to know what to do. I guess you just have to know what your goal is and like wait for opportunities to try and chip away at their logic in a way that is not judgmental or shameful, but would like welcome them back. All right, I'm gonna tell you guys what I'm reading, and and then I'm gonna go because Morgan's almost here. I have been reading the book The Ones We've Been Waiting For: How a New Generation of Leaders Will Transform America by Charlotte Alter. It is very like hopeful and uplifting, which I think I should always have at least one hopeful and uplifting book ready to go in my arsenal, because it's nice reading stuff that's positive. But she's basically like looking at millennials in Congress, or political millennial leaders, and looking back at the events that shaped all of our lives, like 9/11 or Katrina or Hurricane Sandy, like just stuff that was made a big impact on them, and why they, have the beliefs and values that they do. And again, like this goes back to being able to understand, I'm trying to be able to understand Elise Stefanik and Dan Crenshaw better, because Elise Stefanik, like she's gone full MAGA, and she is a really smart, really thoughtful, or at least used to be a really smart, really thoughtful person who went to Harvard with Pete Buttigieg. They talk about that at the same time as Mark Zuckerberg. They talk about that. It's a lot of fascinating connections, and I've really been enjoying it. I'm not done with it yet. And yeah, I'm going to say my self-care is that I haven't seen Morgan since, hold on, let me find the episode. Since the day before the Iowa caucuses, we recorded an episode that came out on February 3rd, 2020. So a real long time. So I hope you guys have a good week. If you're listening to it the day it comes out, today is tax day. They moved it back. I will have met with every 2 weeks or something, Marie Newman, like meets with constituents on a Zoom call, which is dope as hell. And if your congressional leader doesn't do that, then you should find one who will. And yeah, on Saturday, I'm going to one of Sharon McMahon's Government for Grown-Ups classes. I forget what this one's about. Oh, it's about voting in the United States. It's at 6 p.m. Central on Saturday. I'm real excited about that because I'm about to be able to tell people why these voter suppression bills are bullshit even better. One other thing that I want to do this week is figure out how to start registering Democrats. Figuring out how to start getting people registered to vote. So maybe you can do that wherever it is that you live, and we can compare notes. Hey piggies, you ready to fight some voter suppression? Thank you guys so much for listening to For Your Misinformation. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you like it, give us a rating and a review.
It helps us find more listeners, and the more of us there are, the better. And make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter at FYMI Pod.
Shout out to Ben Schlofelt for the audio production, Hope Dye for the podcast art, Kyle Dibdahl for the intro and outro music, and Adam Roston, who edits these videos every week so you can watch them on YouTube.
We come out with new episodes every Monday.